We're going to be singing page 263 in the Red Songbook, Bringing in the Sheaves, or up on the screen. First, second, stand on the last. Sowing in the morning, sowing seeds of kindness, sowing in the noontime and the dewy eve, waiting for the harvest and the time of reaping. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves. Sowing in the sunshine, sowing in the shadow, fearing neither clouds or winter's chilling breeze. By and by the harvest and the labor ended, we shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the... We'd all stand on the last. Going forth with reaping, sowing for the Master, though the loss sustained our spirit often grieve. When our weeping's over, He will bid us welcome. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the sheaves. We shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves. Pastor Lee.
Good evening. The Lord. Heavenly Father, God, thank you for this evening. Thank you for each and every one that is here. And Lord God, I pray that our time together would encourage us to live out the life that you've destined us to experience, that others may know you and experience the power of the Spirit of God working in their lives. Pray these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen. I'd like to start out this evening taking a look at a passage in 2 Kings chapter 2. This passage was looked at extensively at the school closing or graduation of the seminary. It had been on my heart for quite some time, and as it was delivered, I had taken it a little bit different direction. This is where Elijah passes his mantle to Elisha. And when Elijah goes up, his mantle falls, or his coat falls, and it could have just laid there in the dirt. And so that's not exactly what happened at all. Elisha knew the intent that God had for his life. And Elijah was the one that kind of prompted it a little bit. And if you read chapter 1, you'll see that Elijah doesn't spend a lot of time like trying to convince Elisha. He kind of smacks him almost with it, and Elisha seems to know exactly what that is. And Elisha, once he's challenged by Elijah, he goes back and he slaughters his oxen and he uses the yokes to kind of build a fire. And I love that picture because basically what it means is I'm not going back to that. I'm done. And he puts a line in the sand that he might move forward. And chapter 2 says this: It came to pass when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind that Elijah went with Elijah from Gilgal. And Elijah said unto Elisha, Tarry here, I pray thee, for the Lord has sent me to Bethel. And Elijah said unto him, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So they went down to Bethel, and the sons of the prophets that were there at Bethel came forth to Elisha, and said unto him, Knowest that the Lord will take away thy master from you from thy head today? And he said, Yea, I know it. Hold your peace. And Elijah said unto him, Elisha, tarry here, I pray thee, for the Lord has sent me to Jericho. And he said, As the Lord liveth, and as my soul liveth, as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So he came to Jericho. And the sons of the prophets that were there at Jericho came to Elijah and said to him, Knowest thou that the Lord will take away thy master from thy head today? And he answered, he said, Yeah, I know it. Hold your peace. And Elijah said unto him, Tarry, I pray thee here, for the Lord has sent me to Jordan. And he said, As the Lord liveth, and as my soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And the two went on. And 50 men of the sons of prophet went and stood afar off, and they too stood by Jordan. And Elijah took his mantle and wrapped it together, and smote the waters, and they were divided hither and thither. So the two men went over on dry ground. And it came to pass, when they were gone over, Elijah said unto Elijah, Ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elijah said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. And he said, Thou hast asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee. But if not, it shall not be so. And when it came to pass, as they went on and they talked, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and a horse of fire, and he parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more. And he took hold of his clothes, and he rent them into two pieces. And he took also up the mantle of Elijah that fell from him, and he went back, and he stood by the bank of the Jordan. And he took the mantle of Elijah that fell from him, and he smote the waters, and said, Where is the Lord God of Elijah? And when he also had smitten the waters, they parted hither and thither, and Elisha went over. And when the sons of the prophets, which were to view at Jericho, saw him, the Spirit of the Lord does rest on Elijah, and they came to meet him and bowed themselves down to the ground before him. What do you see in this passage? What seems to be reoccurring? Elijah stood to his commitment. He committed that he was going to follow the man of God and then follow God. And while others encouraged him not to, he stuck tight to Elijah. And interesting enough, he was going to ask of God that God would give him a double spirit. And because he stood tight with Elijah, he got just that. And it's interesting the way the Bible records the miracles of Elijah and Elisha, and Elijah's has twice as many miracles recorded. Any coincidence? When I think about this, I think about fortitude. Fortitude. What is fortitude? It's stick-to-itiveness. Standing firm, in particular when it's hard. It's no matter what. This is what I'm going to do. What do I want to encourage you tonight? Stand firm. I look at the news, and what does it tell me? Things are going to get rough. They're saying that the farmers don't have enough fertilizer for crops this year. We've already experienced groceries going up 35%. So what does that mean? They're going to continue to go up. There's farmers that are not planting. And I could talk about a lot of other things, but I thought I'd just cut right to the chase. When you're hungry, your priorities shift dramatically. Go back and look at the Great Depression. Is this going to happen or not? I don't know. But if it does happen, will things get hard? Yes, they will. Jobs are hard to come by, and they're getting harder to come by. Is that true? In this situation, Elijah sensed the calling and the pulling of God, and he followed after God regardless. Regardless. I want to tell you that the times in my life when I feel like I was truly living, when I was truly following God. I say I was freelancing. My wife says I was unemployed. What does it mean to freelance, Brother Bruce?
Hire yourself out, do your thing.
I had clients that I worked for, and I worked from the house, and it was a joy. I didn't go solicit these clients. It was word of mouth. They came to me. I got up every morning and I realized this is God's doing. This isn't me. My prayer life was so much richer and deeper because I realized my very existence depends on Him. Before, I felt oppressed and I was struggling with my employers about all kinds of stuff. But who was my true employer now? It was God. There was no struggle. It was just this richness to it. It was absolutely beautiful. Once you experience walking with God and trusting God, you don't want to go back. It's like breathing oxygen for the first time. I don't know if a child feels that when they're born. That's a bad example. But it's like breathing oxygen after you've had sinus problems for a while. Everything is just like clear again, and it makes sense. I would take a look at Elisha. He is an amazing, amazing example. Thank you so much for your time for that. We had a presentation, and it had videos. Now it just has still pictures. So if you want to see the presentation with videos, they're still there. They're right over there, so you can see it afterwards. But I want to share this with you. I'm going to ask my wife to come up. We have stories, and so not of the Mark Twain type, but of the kind of Jesus divine appointment type. So first of all, we truly want to say thank you. It was a time of rest, and you'll see those pictures. I did not take those, and reconnection for us. It was really great. This first slide here. Is it not? I'll get out my laptop and we'll gather around. Okay, there it is. Oh, back. There it is. Does everybody know where Panama is? Why Panama? we were looking for a place that had beaches and mountains, and that was in the Caribbean. And this kind of qualified. And so we left Fresno. Well, when we showed up to the Fresno airport, the gal told my wife, "You're not going to make your connecting flight." Well, if we didn't make our connecting flight, then we would miss the transport. If we missed the transport, we'd miss the fast boat. If we missed the fast boat, we'd miss sailboat. And so she had worked on this thing for quite some time. And so the gal worked it out to where we flew from Fresno to LA to Newark. You guys know where that is? New Jersey. To Panama. That is not the quickest route. So we showed up at 4 a.m. in the morning. And at 6 a.m., the transport came and got us from the airport. So the hotel that we were supposed to stay in, we didn't get to stay in it. And so if you're not familiar, this is the little connecting link that connects to South America. And so Mexico and all that's up there. And this thing kind of comes around. And so we traveled from Panama City all the way across over to the Caribbean side. So it took 2.5 hours. So as it relates to California, that's like going where? Morro Bay. But think about going to Morro Bay with Mario Andretti. Through the mountains. It was a rally race. Fortunately for us, all the reviews said that the last half of the road beat you to death. This area is controlled by the Ghana people, and so they're like the native Panamanians, and they poured concrete, and so it was smooth. And so that was super nice. And so we traveled over there, and then we got on a fast boat. We were on there 1.5 hours, 2 hours? Hour and a half on a fast boat. So basically what that is, it's just a kind of a transport boat, and it's wide open throttle for 1.5 hours. And that's, we're at the transport here. And our goal is to get to the sailboat. You can stay on the islands. The problem with staying on the islands is that the huts are sand floors. They're sand fleas. And they feed you fish, but they don't take the heads off. And so one of my children says, "Dad, you're not taking Mom on a mission trip." But these are 365 of the most beautiful islands you've ever seen. It's like a Gilligan's Island experience, except you're not stuck. And so it's like we had to kind of find a way, and there was a couple that entertained people, and we found them. That's how this happened. So, next slide. Not quite like the sunsets that we have because of the clouds and stuff like that, but my wife worked at trying to get sunsets. And so this is what it looked like when we were traveling from island to island. Next slide. The place is called Sandblast. So she's an Italian. She left Italy at 31, moved to the Caribbean, and she's a chef. Her mom's a regular Italian lady, so she cooks all the time. She had a restaurant in Italy, Bologna, and she moved here, and so she cooked almost every meal. He cooked a few. But what we did every meal is we prayed. And it was so interesting because they would get things, so they're getting things prepared. And at first, we went ahead and kind of prayed without them because we didn't know if it would make them uncomfortable. And then he discovered that we were praying. And he made a big deal of it. He goes, they're praying. And then he says, they're saying grace. He goes, say it louder so we can hear. He goes, I haven't heard that in like forever. And so then they started praying with us. Well, sitting with us while I prayed. They didn't pray with us.
But the gradual thing was just so much more than that. It was that one of the next meals, he went down and he turned the music off so that the music would be off while we prayed. And then but it was the very last meal that they actually sat with us. And when we went to pray, I don't know about him, but she bowed her head and I saw under because I was about to close my eyes. She reached over and took his hand, and it was just like, thank you, Lord. The respect, you could see the respect because I don't know if he ever told him that he was a pastor. We just continued to talk about the Lord and mission trips and just different things that we had done.
Towards the end of the trip, he pulls out this necklace, has a cross on it. And I said, where'd you get that? Because I hadn't seen it, the whole thing. He goes, well, she gave it to me. I go, do you know what that means? And he goes, she never explained it. And so I looked at her, I said, do you mind if I explain it? And she goes, absolutely, explain it. And so I explained what the cross meant. And I got to share the gospel right there. It was pretty awesome. And so, yeah. All right. Anything else?
They literally travel all over the world. I think the furthest they had ever been was Nova Scotia, is how far they've sailed. And I just thought, one of my thoughts was, we're always talking about, the native in Africa, how will he hear? You just never know how somebody's going to hear the gospel. Whether a church sends a pastor on a vacation, but if he accepts the gospel, how far it goes with him. I mean, they have people from all over the world that come stay with them, and now they have friends all over the world through what they do. But I just thought, Lord, if you get a hold of his heart, people all over the world could hear about you. And so that's just what brought to my mind at the end of our trip with him is how far could he take, the gospel.
He has 50,000 nautical miles under his belt. Next slide. These were videos. Nothing over there. This is actually an inhabited island, and on this island there is one man.
No, it's a little family.
Little family of natives that live on the other side of the island. This is the side where all the wind hits, so you can see why there's trees losing. Some serious winds that'll hit those islands and just rip the top of the tree off, but not on the other side. And on the other side is where they live. And so we spent the day here, and then that other shot was to kind of show you. The water is various colors, but it's clear. It's all clear. It's just when it's really, really blue, it's super deep, and sometimes it trails off pretty severe. What was interesting is when we got back, I went to go take a shower, and Paul is very animated, and he starts yelling, "The house is on fire, the house is on fire." And he had just given us, not a day before, so a whole class on what to do if the boat catches on fire. And he says, because we have lithium batteries here, it's very much a possibility, and so we want you to know what you got to do. And so I thought, what? Yeah, that became an interesting exit for me.
He goes, come out, hurry, the house is on fire.
And what had happened is they had some visitors that had come to visit the island, natives, and they caught the hut on fire, and the hut was on fire. Anyway, island entertainment. Next slide. So this was one of the smaller islands out of the 365, little tiny one. We did not go to that one. But this is one very similar. This one is absolutely beautiful there. And there's a homeless man there. Next slide. So after that, we went back to a place called Casco Viejo, and it is the old town of Panama City. The streets almost look like if you were looking like at Argentina. Absolutely beautiful parts. This time and the other time while we were in the same restaurant, it rained just for a little tiny bit. They call it, oh, that's a cloud. And it rained, and it's just like, even that was beautiful just to see that rain come down for about 20 minutes, and that was about it. And all the buildings in this area either are in this condition or they're bringing them back to that condition. And so very, very nice. We deleted the slides with all the big skyscrapers of Panama. You can see those online. Panama City itself is extremely modern. Tourism isn't the big deal, it's the canal. And there's a lot of people moving business down there. But and that's gelato, and I'd mentioned that before. We had it before, but never this good. This place was pretty amazing. And then we found another place even better in Boquete. So next slide. This is some of the stuff that you see down there. It's just extremely festive and very nice, and just beautiful. And around every corner, there's something just a little bit different. So, any comments? Next slide. So then, from Panama City to where this church plant is this says 3 hours and 20 minutes. They said it's really 4. And so that's where it is. Now this is on the Pacific side. And so we were trying to talk to the missionary about like how to get down there on a bus and how to do it. And we had it all figured out because we studied it on the internet. Isn't that right? We found out that all the stuff we pretty much studied on the internet is pretty bogus. Like it said, you don't need to know Spanish. English is a predominant language. Well, what they meant is in Panama City only. And so he told us, he goes, I don't feel comfortable about you getting on the bus and coming down here. He said, we will take the bus up to Panama City and then we'll ride with you back. Then they decided to rent a car because they thought, you know what, we'll get 4 hours of time to actually talk with you to do that. So they rented a car and they came up and they got us and then they took us back down. This picture here is the glass door to their brand new church building. Their brand new church building is 400 square feet. How big is 400 square feet? It's a garage. And so that day they had 70 people in attendance. Just what he messaged me. And so they gave me a little bit of time to speak. It looks like I'm preaching. I'm just kind of giving the welcome. And so anyway, next slide. Oh, I do want to add this. The guy that built the church building, he's a contractor, was the neighbor. He was the guy that was causing so much trouble for them, they thought they were going to have to move. He would have parties, and he was loud, and he would have tons of people over, and they would be up to all hours of the night. Problem is, his wife was coming to church because she was taking her kids over to their backyard Bible thing, and then she started coming, and then she started getting on him. You got to straighten this up. You can't keep doing this. He says, I don't know if he's saved or not. But everyone that came to help work on the building, he invited them to church. And so this picture here of Brother Mark and I, you like my new hairstyle? This was in the contractors, because they're neighbors, this was in his backyard. And so that's where they kind of had a fellowship. And here's Marie. And I tell you, Marie, Both of them are just jewels, but she's a live wire. And they have a Suburban that's about 20 years old, has about 250,000 miles on it, that they drove from Texas down to Panama. Yeah. Well, we were concerned about the cartels, but he said they were fleeced going through Nicaragua by the police. Just a lot of extortion to get through the checkpoints. And so he says it was quite the journey. I said that to say that that's how they transport the people, is with that. What they really need is a bus. They've got $3,000. They need about 5 more. And that's where they are. But these two people are lovely. Let me tell you the story. She's Panamanian. She's been in Texas for a long, long time. And they went to church in Allen, Texas there. And they were faithful servants, had lots of responsibilities. It came time to retire, and he thought, I'm going to take her back to Panama. That's what I'm going to do for her. And she's like, I don't want to go. And they went and visited, and they do. They visit their family. And he felt called of the Lord to establish a church there. And so that's, instead of sitting back with their feet kicked up, they picked up the mantle, and they are doing some amazing work down there. They've been there three years. Anything you want to say? The two of them totally connected, so she was the bus partner. Next slide. This is Deanna and her cat. Do you see that, Savannah? So in Chitre is where the church plant is. This is the hotel we stayed at, and that cat had breakfast with us. This is what the building looks like inside. And so you'd like, where's the aisleway? Well, they had these little tiny stools, and they filled the aisleway with the stools. So,
But all the littler kids are outside in a class.
yeah, on the patio. Next slide. So this is us. Well, this is the bus that we took to a place called Boquete. Boquete is a mountainous area, and it's hard to tell you what the elevation is because there's so much. It's anywhere from 4,000 to 7,000 feet. There's just such extremes there, and there's microclimates. This is where they grow the coffee, and so if you look beyond us, and there should be another slide of this, you'll see there's a coffee plantation there, and they grow an Aramaic coffee that is some of the priciest in the world. They don't have big coffee plantations. They're very tiny, but the prices are extremely high for this. We drank it. Tastes like tea. He says the stuff that we drink is burnt, full of worms and mold. I've been drinking more water. Next slide. So this is the hostel that we stayed at, and so you guys familiar with a hostel? What's a hostel? We have fight every night. No, what's a hostel?
Everybody piles in shared space.
Yeah, it's where everyone piles in, and it's shared space. So a lot of Europeans do this, and so you'll have a room with just a bunch of bunks in there, and you just share space together. We stayed off to the left, so that's where everyone stayed. There was a little tiny place off to the left, and so that's where we stayed. What we found is that the places to stay there were incredibly affordable. But it was so beautiful. Now this right here is a video on the right, and it pans that whole area. And so you see the coffee plantation, you see the mountains, you see the microclimate. It's just, you could sit on this patio for hours, and that's where we ate our meals while we were there. This thing is way away from the city. The city is one street, but this place is really growing, and the president is building a place in Boquete, and it's a lot of people from other countries are moving to this area because the weather's like 70 degrees almost all the time. what's interesting on the equator is the sun comes up at 6:30 and goes down at 6:30. The weather stays the same. So if you're the kind of person that likes things consistent, this is very consistent. Next slide. There's a shot of the coffee plantation. This is a video, another video showing, but you can see those clouds brewing, and those mountains look like they're really tall. As that thing goes over to the right, man, they really go up. Next slide. Now, we left there, and because those mountains go up so tall, if you were to just drive over there, it'd be like 30, 45 minutes. But you have to go around all that mountain, and how long did it take us? 4 hours. Because you got to go down, and then go back up, and then over. And so, think about this. It took us 2.5 hours to cross it, but because you got to backtrack, it takes you more time. But this driver was a lot better driver. And so we ended up near, yeah, and then you have an hour? Then there's, yeah, that's right. Then there's, after that, it's an hour boat ride. And so it's a whole series of islands out there called Bocas de Toro, and they are totally different than San Blas. And so this was a video to show you that whole area and what it looks like between kind of the main island and where we were. The middle island is the Airbnb that we stayed at, and then that good-looking gal on the right is right after a walk we took halfway around the island. So, next slide. To the left, there was a man feeding some of the fishes bread, and they just come up, I mean, just by the droves come up. And so we saw starfish, fish, stingrays, barracudas, a lot of barracudas. And so it was neat. These two gals that we met we met several people at the Airbnb, but towards the end we really got connected with these two gals, and somehow it's like, man, I really like these gals, but I can't figure it out. They were from London. The one taking the picture was a hairdresser, the other sold flooring, but it's like there's something about them that's like, I don't know, I'm just like, I feel like kind of connect with them. Kind of find out they're Irish. And once they found out I was Irish, they ribbed me from then on. We came across one night, and we did not have a very good water taxi guy. And he could not keep the boat next to the dock. And I have told you guys for years, you cannot have one foot on the boat and one on the dock. Have I said that? I found out you cannot have one foot on the boat and one on the dock. Where will you end up? Did you see that other picture of me and what I was wearing? Water shirt and swim trunks. I wore that the whole time there. So when I fell in the water, I just swam over to the ladder, climbed up. And they, from the moment they left, they're like, I went over with them to the other side, got them connected with their guy, and came back, and as I was coming back, they're like, hey, don't fall in the water. So Deanna started a whole string of texting them on WhatsApp, and so they're still connecting and talking. We're still talking to the people on the ship. She sent them a message today, and so that part's pretty amazing. Any comments?
I just wanted to talk about James.
Okay. There was another individual that was at the Airbnb that we were trying to figure out his story. And he's a super friendly guy. And towards the end, we had some great conversation.
I think he was a contractor, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a contractor.
Louisiana.
From Louisiana. And he had a friend that lived in Costa Rica, so they were there vacationing together. But he must have had little conversations with Russell about, everybody always talks about, everybody, everybody travels all the time. They've been to so many places. And so he was asking Russell, well, have you ever been here? Well, have you ever been here? And Russell would go, well, I've been on a mission trip to here, and I've been on a mission trip to here. So the very last morning, he and his friend, they pulled their suitcases out and were eating breakfast, and he walks up to her table, and he says, you keep talking about those missions, and I want to do a mission. He goes, but I don't have the verses to give them. What verses do I give them? And we said, well, start in the book of John. Read the book of John. He goes, okay, if I can remember that. And I go, if you don't remember, I go, do you watch sports? Do you watch football? He goes, yeah. I go, just turn on the football game. You'll see the sign. That's the book you read, John.
And he knew that sign.
Yeah, and so he was just a very, but he talked about, he was of his Catholicism, but we talked about the Lord to him, but I just thought.
And then we told him to read Romans with the intent of him being saved.
Yeah, but he, anyways, he was just a sweet man that I just was, it was like God just walked him right up to the table. You know, there wasn't that many of us, but just the fact that he goes, I don't have the verses. And he knew he needed them. But the funniest part was he goes, but I do pray Psalms 91 every day. And, you know, we've talked about Psalms 91. And I just thought, that's interesting. So it was just one of my little special blessings.
Next slide. So the individual that owned this Airbnb, and this is a rather humble Airbnb on this island, he was from Paris. He also was a chef, and he had 3 restaurants in Paris. The stress was too much. He moved to Panama. He's been there 15 years. He's been here 18 months. And we had noticed that something was amiss. Like, this is not the guy that when we first came here. He's wound a little tight, which seems odd to be on the islands. But something wasn't quite right. And so he and Deanna really kind of connected. And he was sitting out there, and would you sit down?
I asked if I could sit down.
Sat down and began to just ask him questions and talk to him. And he told us, and he just pretty much told us the difficulties that he was going through, just opened up. And there were some real challenges that he had. And he ended up sending Deanna the most amazing message on WhatsApp. That's what they use. And it was phenomenal. And I guess what we learned is if we'll pay attention and if we'll slow down and we'll show some concern, we can have an open door. And that's what God just kept showing us over and over and over, is the open door. Any comments?
Well, for you guys who like, what's the show, Lorelai show?
Oh,
For those of you who are Gilmore Girl fans, this is Michelle from Paris.
yes, Michelle. Next slide. So this, we had taken a lot of on-ground transportation. It was going to be 7 hours in the bus to go back to Panama City from Bocas de Toro. And so, I don't know if you know how a Panamanian bus works. If there's someone on the side of the road, they stop and pick them up.
Doesn't matter if there's a seat or not.
Yeah, if there's no seat, no problem. No man left behind, man. It's crazy. And so we just thought, we're probably not going to want to come home exhausted. And so she found this little tiny domestic airline, 12 passenger. This is the little plane right here. When you walk in the plane, and they flew low and slow. It took us an hour to get to Panama, but this is a video. Not this, but you know, of all the islands around there. And it was just absolutely beautiful, just breathtaking. And so this is coming into the Panama Canal. Next slide. This is a place we landed. This was the restaurant that we went to before. It was just right by our hotel there. And we went to again. The food was cheap and great. And so we went there. And probably the most important thing is the gelato place was across the street.
You can see the sign through the door.
Yeah, you can see the gelato sign. And so we were trying to figure out how to navigate traffic because traffic in Panama City is a nightmare. And so while we were at the bed and breakfast, we used the Wi-Fi to find a thing where you could pay through this app to store your luggage for, like any amount of time actually. And for 4 hours, it was going to be $20. That's really high for Panama kind of stuff. And so it's like, we don't want to wait in traffic. We don't really want to pay that. And we just decided we're going to trust God. No cheers. We get to this restaurant, and as soon as we walk in, they go, here, put your luggage back here. And they had a place where they stored luggage. And we're like, it's pretty cool. And so we kind of drag our feet there, like for a while. And then it's like, okay, this is starting to get a little awkward. So we just ask. We were going to walk around. They're like, oh, absolutely. I said, you guys close at 3:30? She goes, no, we close at what, 10? Yeah. And they're like, yeah, come back whenever you want. And so we took a walk around town, got some gelato. While we were in the gelato, they were like, hey, can you fill out a review? And they're like, well, I don't have internet. And they're like, oh, we have Wi-Fi. Here's your Wi-Fi. And so we're like, oh, we could get us an Uber. And we were trying to navigate all that. There was a young gal, and she goes, here, let me help you. Let me figure out what all that is. And she says, why are you taking an Uber? You just take a little Uber right over here and then get on the metro and then take the metro to the airport and then take the shuttle from the airport to your hotel. It's just like you could do this whole thing for what, $7? And so we're like, okay, we'll do it. And so I said, why don't we just walk to the metro? She goes, nope, you'd be walking through the ghetto. It's the wrong time of day. Okay. So our Uber guy shows up that she actually orchestrated after we get our luggage. She orchestrates this thing. And this guy's a Christian guy. And it's like, that's cool. And so then we go to the metro. And we're there. And we're so excited. And we get in there. And we get up to the little machine so that we can buy the stuff. It's all in Spanish. And, I speak Spanish until I have to. I can't even count a number. I did not see Paco on the thing or nothing. It's like, and so we're asking people. Nobody down there spoke English. Nobody. And we're in Panama City. What's wrong with the internet? And so she goes over to a police officer. And he asked, do you have a credit card? He spoke English. And we're like, you speak English? He goes, yeah, my brother lives in Lancaster. Where are you from? I said, we're from California. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, in California, a Coke costs $5. It costs $1 here. And then he's just jeering with us. And it's like, he takes the Visa card, swipes it, we just go right through. And we're like, oh, man, now we know. And so he, how many times? 3 times told us, how to go. And so we get on there, and we have to make a transfer, and so we do. And what happens is we found out that the metros are like the buses. They just keep getting on. And we got all this luggage, and I'm like, how are we going to get off? Like they packing in, and we are in the center. This man gets in, and he sees us, and he goes, he knows, like, gringo, like. So he's showing us, there's a little map right here, and he's showing us on that map where we need to get off. And then he goes,
Counts it.
yeah, he counts. And then he goes, and he does that like 3 times so he could see it. And then he starts telling everybody around us, we're getting off. It's like our John the Baptist. And we're seeing God just work through this whole thing. Like, we have this God positioning system that is working this whole thing out. We have no internet at all. We don't speak a lick of English or Spanish. Either one. We don't. And God's working this whole thing out. And so we finally get off, and it's like, there's the airport. And what you do is at the end you pay. Where there is this couple from Europe, and their card won't work. So I'm like, I can do that. I know how this works. So I take our card and we swipe it, and they go through. And it's like, this is awesome. Why don't we do this stuff at home? So then we get to the airport, and so far we've been actually hustle-free. And we get to the airport. And there's these gentlemen. They got this title. They're called taxi drivers. And so the hustle starts. We're looking for a shuttle, and they tell her, it won't be here for an hour and a half. At this point, all we want is a shower and go to bed. Because we got to get up like 4 in the morning. And anyway, it ended up, being 20, 30 minutes? The guy shows up. It was totally fine. Everything was great. And so happy to say that our flight home, uneventful. It went exactly the way it was supposed to go. And so I didn't show you this part. The rest. Next slide. Hammock. I discovered a hammock. I even slept on the top of the boat. Next slide. These are shots that Deanna got.
There are more, but
Not attractive. Last slide. We just want to thank you guys for allowing us to go. I know there were some of you that were concerned. Some of you were concerned about our sanity. But it was super restful. And it was truly, I felt like a trip of a lifetime. So thank you so much. That's all I got.
just have one quick little story that, and we forgot to, it wouldn't matter because it's a video. We went to, when we, at
Can
the
you guys
last,
hear?
At the last islands we were at, we went to a little beach that is, but it's called Starfish Beach, and it's full of starfish. And these 2 little boys, they walk around with this plastic bin of empanadas.
Empanadas.
And they're selling them all day long. I mean, up and down the beach all day long. And so about 5 o'clock, we're ready to go. But to get to the beach, we got off a bus, and you walk through this jungle. And there's a path. And so we're getting ready to walk back to the bus. And those 2 little boys that have been selling stuff all day, they're walking in front of us. Of course, they got their sticks. I call them Theo and Noah.
The whole time.
And they're swatting leaves and drawing in the dirt and all this, and we just keep following. I mean, they're only about this tall. We followed them all the way back to the bus, and it's about a 20-minute walk, I think. And the bus driver also obviously knows them, and he tells them they have to wait. And so all the tourists get on the bus and the older people. And then he calls them over and he lets them, they have to stand, but they get on the bus. And they drive about halfway back to the city, and the bus stops. And their family is there, it's in front of their house. And these little boys get off and go home, and they have gone to work that day. And I just was, I couldn't stop thinking about them, you know. At first it was just cute, and then it was like, oh, these little boys have worked all day, and now they've come home to their family. And I just thought that was so interesting. That and the people who live there, you know, a lot of us, we don't, because our lives are busy, we don't take the time to see all the beauty of the United States. Because they asked us, you guys got stuff, do you ever go see it? And I go, not really, we're kind of busy. And, but for them, they enjoy where they live. It's not just the tourists on the beach. The people who live there, they're on the beach, they're in the water, they're there with their families, they're riding their bikes with their kids through the towns. And I just thought that was interesting to me, that they enjoyed their life, they enjoyed where they lived, and I just thought that was,
Yeah. So, thank you guys.
but thank you.
Appreciate it.
It was more than a vacation for us. It really was a renewal of our relationship, and just not having his phone, not having a vehicle, having to, and I'll tell you, my lesson that God taught me was, I don't have to figure everything out.
Yeah.
I would wake up and go, how are we gonna get to the bus? How are we gonna do this? Where are we gonna put our luggage when we go back to the city, you know? We can't drag it around town. And I kept trying to, because I did set up, you know, make all the arrangements for the trip. I was always trying to get everything figured out. And God just kept telling me, you don't have to figure it out. I've already cut some things in place. Just calm down, you know? And so that very last day when God kept putting people in front of us to take care of us, it was a really good lesson for me, and it was a good lesson for me to come home with, that I need to trust him more, talk to him more, and walk in the Spirit, and just let him do things that I think I need to figure out, you know. So I'm thankful for that. I've really not got a hold of it, real good grip on that, but that was my lesson.
All right. Thank you. Any announcements? Prayer requests? Okay.